Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In celebration of the Global Entrepreneurship Week, Qatar Development Bank is organizing Ruwad 2020, Qatar's Entrepreneurship Conference. And in partnership with Texas A&M University at Qatar, we are glad to present to you the opening ceremony panel discussion on how to enhance collaboration between academia and industry, and government as well, to promote entrepreneurship and support Qatar's innovation ecosystems. My name is Marwan Khresha, a professor of mechanical engineering and the chair of the mechanical engineering program at Texas A&M University here at Qatar. As we all know, universities play a critical role in developing and advancing our nations. Universities train and prepare graduates for the workforce, and universities conduct research and development to produce know-how and intellectual property to give nations competitive edge and technological advances. The relationship between academia and industry depends on many factors and mainly governed by the push and pull factors. The universities push ideas and skilled graduates to the market and expect the industry to pull the output from the academia. On the other hand, the industry expects universities to train graduates according to their needs and also expect universities to develop solutions to their challenges and problems. Regions and nations known for their innovation and entrepreneurship power, like the Silicon Valley in the United States, Kendall Square, maybe Singapore, Germany, and others, have developed synergetic relationship between academia and industry. They aligned the expectations between academia and industry. To discuss this important topic, it is my pleasure to welcome our panelists. First, I would like to welcome Mr. Saleh bin Majid Al-Khulaifi, the Acting Undersecretary at the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in Qatar. Welcome, Mr. Saleh. And also from Washington, D.C., welcome Bouk Kuhadar, the Vice President of the Global Entrepreneurship Week. And from Geneva, would like to welcome Nukathullah Lukili, the lead for digital transformation at the World Economic Forum. Welcome all to our program. And here in the studio, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Hassan Bazzi, the Associate Dean for Research and Advancement at Texas A&M University at Qatar.
Thank you.
We would like to start by giving each panelist a chance to talk for a few minutes, give an introductory remark on the general topic, and then we will start our discussion and Q&A. So first, let me start with you, Mr. Saleh, to give us an idea on what are, the viewpoints and perspectives of Qatar government on the relationship between academia and industry, and how do you enhance the relationship between academia and industry to promote entrepreneurship in Qatar? Mr. Saleh. Okay, I think we have an audio problem, so we'll go to Ms. Bouk Kuhadar from Washington, D.C. Would you start, please, and tell us a little bit about, your experience in academia and industry relationship and how that supports entrepreneurship?
For sure. Good morning, everybody. Distinguished guests. I'm really happy to join this conversation this morning, very early in the morning at 3:53 a.m. for the opening of Global Entrepreneurship Week in Qatar. I would especially like to thank Qatar Development Bank, our official Global Entrepreneurship Week host organization, Texas A&M University of Qatar, Dr. Marwan. Thank you very much for having me here. As most of you know, Global Entrepreneurship Network is the organization behind Global Entrepreneurship Week. And this is a week that happens every November in over 180 countries this year. And we have been reaching over 9 million people And this year we're expecting the number to even rise further because of the digital aspect of this week's celebrations. And I would like to give the example of Global Entrepreneurship Week as part of the collaboration between the ecosystem stakeholders, because this week is all about all members of the ecosystem, starting from the governments to non-profit organizations, from universities to private sector. It's all about joining a grand challenge of listening to entrepreneurs, listening to change makers, listening to stories of startups, and find ways of getting more startups to this world. And as part of this post-pandemic mission, we're all trying to rebuild our economies. We're all trying to create new jobs in our countries. We find that it's really imperative for our nations to work together, innovate together for a more sustainable, inclusive, and equitable global economy. And very plain and simple, economics suffer more when people are left out. And this week, we rise to this occasion of empowering communities and inspiring hope and togetherness. We also identify barriers to historically underrepresented groups and hard-to-reach communities, and we try to get them inspired to start their own business venture and initiative. We find that universities are really one of the best places to get this started, just because it is a safe environment. I believe we will talk more about this in this panel. You can easily start, and you can also very much easily fail and recycle and start your new initiative. And this is something I believe that the private sector is now also very much looking for experience in universities, in university students to start and to learn about scaling a business, which further on translates to all kinds of skills that are necessary to build resilience and to be successful in future careers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking more.
Thank you for that. So now we go back to Mr. Saleh. We give you a chance, please, to tell us a little bit about what you're doing here to promote entrepreneurship and enhance relationship between academia and industry in Qatar. Mr. Saleh.
Thank you, Dr. Maher. And first of all, I do apologize for the technical errors, even though it's been about 10 months of moving to the digital era and again, being able to work from home, but technical difficulties still emerge. I would like to thank, first of all, QDB and TechSendam for hosting this very crucial and important session. The partnership between the private sector, corporate world, and academia is crucial, as it's one of the main drivers of GDP growth, of innovation, of fostering more entrepreneurship, especially in Qatar, where there are huge potential drivers coming from the government sector, the oil and gas sector being the main drivers, and having great partners such as world-renowned universities, and we've got the local university, the national champion Qatar University, both of them being able to graduate hundreds of graduates per year. From a government point of view, and especially that I drive the regulation agenda here in Qatar, we're trying to do our best to reduce all red tape that challenges entrepreneurship and innovation, whether it's from ease of starting businesses. We try to have multiple incubators within each university campus to make it easier and reduce the reach that these students need to take to start up their ventures we're trying to increase the realm of IP and protection of intellectual property, especially that most of the innovation is coming in the design and the coding and technology sectors. So this is our main idea from a regulatory point of view. On the other hand, we're trying to make it easier for buyers, especially government buyers, to procure and use the talents available and the innovations available at the private sector to make it either more cost-effective, come up with faster solutions, come up with more innovative solutions to their problems. Especially today with the current pandemic, we've seen that the private sector is much easier to move, to cover logistical issues, to provide a bigger cover to all the challenges we faced as a government in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. So we have seen multiple great examples in this pandemic, and it would be great to talk about them more. And by the end is hearing from the private sector and what are the, let's say, best practices or what are other hurdles that they are facing that we can make it easier for them to enter and provide their innovations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saleh. I would like to go to our guest from Geneva and hear a little bit about the World Economic Forum perspective on how to support entrepreneurship and how to enhance collaboration among the different stakeholders. Ms. Nukathola Lukeli, please, from Geneva.
Thank you very much, and thank you to QDB and Texas A&M and Dr. Marwan for this opportunity to discuss this important topic, and to my esteemed panelists. So I work with the World Economic Forum on our platform of digital economy and new value creation. And what the World Economic Forum does is that it focuses on public-private cooperation. So our mission is to improve the state of the world. And we do this through bringing together stakeholders from all sectors of society to shape this future. We understand that, government on its own, or business on its own, or academia on its own, or civil society on its own, cannot ensure our systems are collaborated for a future that is more cohesive, sustainable, and resilient on their own. There needs to be a partnership of global stakeholders, including knowledge experts and the most creative thinkers and the younger generation. And so at the forum, we offer our experience over the last 5 decades in building these purpose-driven communities and collaborations. And most recently, with an increased focus on innovation and entrepreneurship through our innovative communities. Now, to take a bit of a step back, why this is so important, this fostering innovation and promoting entrepreneurship, it's essential for economic growth and for economic resilience and for the vitality of society. And so we see this as an opportunity to drive new value opportunities in regions, to provide solutions for societal needs or desires, to increase employment opportunities, and this is just to name a few. And collaboration is a key factor in this innovation system. And when we talk about an innovation system, we talking about a network, a dynamic network of actors in the public and private sector that are involved in the flow of knowledge and research and technology that's economically useful. And so these actors include government, academia, and industry. And when these actors collaborate, then you have new knowledge and research that is constantly being translated into economic and societal value. Today, there are many actors in the innovation system, but today, just speaking on academia, government, and industry, some of the biggest gaps that we see is that there's these different priorities and goals that these actors have. So I'll just speak on
we will talk about these gaps,
Yeah.
I think, in more details, I think, as we go in the discussion. Thank you so much. I think this is a great introduction. Let me just go back to Dr. Hassan Bazzi in the studio here. And you heard how important it is for universities to engage with the industry, with the private sector, with the government about the students. So what does Texas A&M University at Qatar here do to enhance collaboration and reach out to the entrepreneurs in the community here?
Thank you, Dr. Marwan. It gives me great pleasure to be with you today. Texas A&M University at Qatar, we started our operation here in 2003, and we produce the manpower of engineers. We would like to say we produce innovators and we produce entrepreneurs. We operate in Qatar in partnership with the Qatar Foundation. And we have very close work or very close partnership with the industry. And we maintain that open dialogue with them all the time through many avenues. We're going to discuss it hopefully through the in the coming sectors. But for example, we have the Dean Development Council that has maybe 20 or 21 CEOs of local companies, where we meet with them regularly and we hear from them what exactly their expectations are from our graduates and how they are doing on the workforce. In addition, I mean, we work with our alumni and we hear from them stories, success stories and non-success stories. And we ask them, like, where did we fail with you? What can we do better for your new classes? So now we are offering classes or courses on entrepreneurships, modules, excuse me, and we try always, to listen to them and to make sure that we are implementing in our curricula new ideas so that our students are ready for tomorrow. Now, the most important thing I would like to mention that Texas A&M at Qatar over the last 17 years, we have produced more than 1,000 engineers in Qatar, and half of them are Qatari nationals. So we are very proud of being part of this community, and we are producing, not only manpower in the different areas of engineers, but we are producing, innovators and entrepreneurs.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to go to Washington and ask Book, because you mentioned you have a network of 180 countries and you reach to 90 million people. From your experience, okay, how do we encourage students in universities to take a calculated risk and engage in some entrepreneurial activities and not be worried about, finding a normal job, as what people call it here? So what can you tell us from your experience with the 90 million people you reach through the entrepreneurship network?
Sure, that's a great question. And that's a question I think all of us explore every day as part of our jobs. I think the answer is not easy. There are many ways of doing this. Some methods have proven more useful than others. I think, as some of the panelists have suggested, we do need to be asking for constant feedback on what's working and what's not working, and updating what we're doing accordingly. There are lots of entrepreneurship programs that are both local and global, and all of us are trying to either create our own programs or bring some of the global programs and translate them into our communities. And what people, especially students, identify with the most is hearing their local stories, their local success stories, their local case studies on entrepreneurship. Okay, we talk about, all of these successful startups in United States, in Silicon Valley, in other parts of the world. But usually, I think what students are most concerned about is those conditions do not translate in what's happening in their country. So they want to hear more about what they can do locally, what opportunities are available. And of course, with their busy study schedule, getting them to try these new opportunities can be a challenge. And this is where collaborations among different stakeholders really does come into place. I think with the concern of building a future, with the concern of potentially getting a job with the pressure they're under from their families, students are always looking into industry collaborations that are happening within the university. They're always looking into career opportunities. And we really do need to find ways of blending these with non-traditional methods of education, which involve entrepreneurship and other types of innovation activities.
Very good, thank you. I want to go to Nukatullah in Geneva, and I know the World Economic Forum have multiple platforms and have done studies about what will be the future skills required for our students, etc. So what platforms you have at the World Economic Forum that involve students and academicians to blend them with private sector and with investors and with the government entities?
Yes, that's right. We've done quite a bit of work on two fronts. The first being what does the digital future look like, and what does the future of work look like? And then the second front is around who are the communities who drive that future. And one way that the forum has grown over the last few years is through this community of innovators, disruptors, young global leader communities, global shaper communities, which provide a new and unique voice to what we would call traditional businesses or larger enterprise voices, or even incumbent government voices. And so what we do is that we convene all these stakeholders. So there's there's usually not as much impact that you can drive by just convening governments across regions or just convening industries across the sectors or just convening multiple disruptors. The magic happens when we convene all these groups together. And so the type of things that you can advance there are either discussions about what frameworks we're using for innovation. For instance, are our national systems of innovation frameworks still applicable today or for the future that we want to drive? And in those conversations, you need academics, you need regulators, and you need the business leaders that are driving those future platforms. You can drive actionable outputs and guides with this cross-industry community, and you can launch coalitions and collaborations and pilots similar to what we did with Internet for All, where we piloted a framework to roll out connectivity in Africa. And so those are the type of ways that we use these cross-industry communities, and we're continuously growing to see how do we make those communities more diverse, how do we make sure we increase the perspectives that come into shaping the future of our world.
Very good. We'll come back later maybe and ask if the Middle East region, in terms of students and academia, are involved in these platforms, or they are not really involved, and maybe we need to do more about awareness here. We'll come back to this later, but I would like to go back to Mr. Saleh. And Book mentioned that we need really to look at the local situation, at the local context, and provide successful examples so we can, encourage role model, basically for to encourage other people to follow suit. I've been living in Qatar here for the last 7 years, and in the last recent years, I've seen significant increase in number of young Qataris and non-Qataris also doing some startup activities and more involved in that. And thanks to QDB and some of the government regulations for that. So what have you done right to increase that? And what are you doing to diversify the sector of startups? Because we see maybe some more towards services rather than maybe more technology development. And I know there is a focus on that. So what have you done right, Qatar, in the last several years, and what are the future plans?
Well, Dr. Maher, I again would like to thank you. Most of your graduates are one of our successful tenants in either the incubation center, in where it is the largest incubation center in the Middle East, where they go to Qatar Science Technology Park, or the rest of the initiatives here in Qatar. I would like actually to dig more on one of the best initiatives we've got was the Qatar Fab Lab, where there's a merge between, I've seen it between Texas A&M students where they're great in design and other, again, entrepreneurs in the country, and we try to match them to create some of their ideas and be able to have physical prototypes that they can use as a starting step for their ventures. This is one of the initiatives that I personally have seen in the past years. Initiatives like these try to celebrate entrepreneurship. And as you speak, you've seen multiple videos before our talk where there are entrepreneurs that have pitched their ideas. And by the end of this week, we will celebrate multiple entrepreneurs that they will start their success story, inshallah. So there are celebrations like the Global Entrepreneurship Week, the Fab Labs, and many others. One great case I would like to speak about, and as my colleagues spoke about here, is using local success stories. I myself have seen a success story where a professor from Qatar University worked with one of our manufacturers to create a patent for safety syringes. And this was all even before the COVID pandemic, where they focused on the latest technology where it comes to reducing the risk of infection and infection control. So this is a great collaboration between the academia, between the private sector, and between the government, where Hamad Hospital is using and is giving them guidance into what are the policies and regulations they need to use in terms of the highest degree of safety. So there are multiple cases in town, but I think really we need to bring them more, maybe have more site visits, have more roadshows to encourage the students to take it forward, but also to encourage the private sector and the corporate world, the industrial manufacturers in Qatar, to take that leap of faith. By the end of the day, they are still secretive about their business. We need to show them the success stories, to show them that it's okay to have collaborations with the private sector or with the academia, to have more R&D within their, whether it's their production lines or even their technology and service-oriented businesses, to develop more patents, to create more innovation, to help them to compete better on a global scale.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Hassan, students are really the fuel of the entrepreneurship ecosystem. They are the ones that, they can take risks at the early stage of their life and after graduation. And as you said, you are the engineering leaders here in Qatar. We graduated more than 1,000 engineers here. And do we know how many of these go into the private sector versus how many go to the government, and whether we can help them and do some startup activities at the university level?
Being in Qatar, naturally, most of our graduates go to the public sector, the government sector, Qatar Petroleum and its subsidiaries. That's one of the reasons Texas A&M came to Qatar is to support the oil and gas sector. So the first answer is the majority of our students, mostly the Qataris, of course, they work in the public sector, Qatar Petroleum and its subsidiaries. But that doesn't mean they are not able to innovate and come up with ideas and entrepreneurship ideas. Now, the second part of your questions, we work with them, especially in the last few years. I have to say, at the beginning of our presence in Qatar, we were more geared toward producing the manpower to support the engineering workforce. In the last 5 to 7 years, we are working more with our students who come back to us and say, can you offer something, short courses, continuing education, professional educations, and we're working hard with them. I go back to what some of the panelists mentioned. Qatar, and the Qatar National Vision 2030 of the knowledge-based economy. As we move toward that, we are generating knowledge in the research that we do. Doing research alone in academia is not enough. We are partnering with the industry. Okay. Now, my advice, or everybody's advice, is always we need to engage early with the industry. The students need to do projects, research projects, summer internships. And we are very successful with that at Texas A&M, thanks to our partnership with all the local partners in Qatar, private and public sector. We send them for summer internships. Based on that, they can decide what they want to do later in their career. And then even when we apply for funding from the local funding agency in Qatar, the Qatar National Research Fund, we work very hard in finding also industrial partners, because that way it's a win-win for everyone. Okay, the students can engage with the industry, they know the expectations of the industry. And at the same time, I mean, if they have a mentor from the industry, they can ask questions early enough. What do I need to do? What do I need to know? So I think, we are progressing. I mean, going back to your earlier question, the ecosystem in Qatar is not there yet for innovation. It's work in progress. But I have to say, I've been here for 17 years in Qatar. I mean, Qatar has made a giant leap, yes. Okay? We will never say it's done. It will never be done, okay? I mean, the ecosystem, the puzzle pieces are coming together. Inshallah, nobody will ever tell you how many years. We are on the right direction. The players are all here. But for me, as an academia, I mean, we are the main part because we are producing the manpower for all of this.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to go back to Geneva. World Economic Forum have published recent study about the future skills required for graduates into in the next 5 to 10 years, and then more focus on digital skills. We know there is a lot of space of innovation in the digital, space, IT, Internet of Things, and all of these different things. From your experience and dealing with different initiatives at the World Economic Forum, how do you see the involvement of Middle Eastern countries, of our region here, in these programs? And how do we encourage more participation of students and faculty and industry and private sector into these global programs?
Yeah, that's right. And just to speak a little bit briefly to your point about the future skills needed, we recently published a report, the Jobs Reset report in 2020, and it shows the top 10 skills that will be most important over the next 5 years. And interestingly enough, out of those top 10, only 2 of them are technology focused. And so there's a lot of kind of reframing about the skills globally that would be needed for students and future employers to be successful. But for how we structure the work that we do in regions, there's a global lens that the World Economic Forum takes through these platforms. And, you'll have platforms on either industry-focused topics like manufacturing or education or so forth, or you have, platforms that are on public goods type of projects. So this is circular economy and gender gaps and all of these. But where we really see the biggest impact is in these regional groups, and there's one for Middle East and North Africa, the MENA Regional Action Group. And as Berke mentioned, it's really important to have to consult the local communities on what are your core issues. You might have an understanding of it globally, but they always prioritize a little bit differently depending on which region that you're in. And on top of that, these regional groups are able to pull in all the stakeholders needed to solve the issues that rise to the top. And I know right now the Middle East and North Africa Regional Action Group is in the process of identifying those priority, what are the top 10 things that we need to get everybody to collaborate around. What are the things we need to get academia, government, industry to help drive forward? But for instance, in the one group that has advanced quite a bit on this, what they did, and this was the Regional Action Group in South Asia, is that once they had identified their list of, these are the things that are important in our region, small and medium businesses, education, and some other sectors, they brought in the right stakeholders. They brought in some of the top thought leaders in academia into discussions with some of the biggest government institutions and some of the most powerful industry leaders, all into one brainstorming session to say, all right, if we were to focus on SMEs and education, what's the solution we could drive forward there? And once they had identified a solution, then you can pull in, all these other stakeholders. The universities can involve their students, and everybody can pull in the resources that is needed to kind of drive through the solution. So it's a bit of an art in terms of connecting the dots, but the most important thing for the forum always is to consult the community, consult the people about what the focal point should be before you bring the actors together to solve a solution. People-centered, human-centered.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Saleh, I would like to ask a question about how do you deal with the fact that market in Qatar is relatively small, and how do you address, potentially, having entrepreneurs, access to maybe markets outside? You are in charge of trade affairs at the ministry. How do you what are the policies and regulations you have in place to encourage people to consider markets beyond Qatar?
There are two ways, actually. Before going to the markets out of Qatar, I actually do disagree that the market in Qatar is small. We've got big markets, but in specific niches like oil and gas, like healthcare, education. So there are big room to operate in Qatar in a competitive economic models in specific sectors where Qatar has a big competitive advantage. Our sport fields are huge, again, oil and gas. So there is room to operate and be of a global competitive scale in the Qatari market. On the other hand, we do support entrepreneurs and corporates alike in Qatar, as it's a clear mandate to open trade relations with other countries. So we do that in two parts. One part is by opening and signing more trade agreements with partner countries to make it easier and more cost-effective for Qatari companies to export their products, access more markets in a smooth manner. The other part is by participating with the local players, the local economy, QDB being one of them, and helping entrepreneurs participate in whether they are export exhibitions abroad, giving them roadmaps on how can we access other markets, giving them advice on what are the best routes and best markets to access, whether these are to export plastic products. We've got a big export in steel products. And now we're also entering the cosmetic and luxury items. So there are multiple products that we are being able to produce. The next level would be to start exporting services, whether it's technology products, some of the know-how that we are taking from the oil and gas and the sport fields, and being able to export them to the regional players or on a global scale.
Okay, I will come back to you because, and we have to mention the FIFA World Cup 2022 was really a great, platform for innovation across different sectors, and I think we've seen some significant innovations. We'll come back maybe towards the end to that, but I would like to go to Book in Washington and ask you about, you deal with a large network, okay? What can you do to, for example, connect regional or local players with each other so they can learn from each other? I mean, and I'm not talking about at the government level or at the large NGOs, but maybe at the smaller scale, programs for university students, maybe student competitions that is global, etc. Are there programs that can encourage this cross collaboration of the small players in the ecosystem?
Yes, for sure. And I actually wanted to talk about that a little. Nokotulu mentioned the Global Shapers community, which is a great community that's across the world, that's getting young minds to think about today's challenges and finding solutions, creating solutions for them. And I think what's important in today's world is actually being and feeling part of a community, both locally and globally. So you do need to look for communities that speak the same language as you, not necessarily your local language, but your worldview, the way you look at the world, and the way you identify yourself. So I think in that sense, there are many startup communities that are both global and local. Global Entrepreneurship Network has quite a few of those. We have, for example, for business angels, we have a global business angels network. For policymakers, we have Startup Nations Policy Network. For example, this network does not just work with the at the ministry level. It also works with startup savvy policymakers to exchange ideas and to find ways of what we call hacking policies. So working your way around policies that are not easy to change, but making them more friendly for entrepreneurs. We have, again, Global Entrepreneurship Network has a lot of programs, entrepreneurship competitions. We have one called Entrepreneurship World Cup, which we launched 2 years ago. And entrepreneurs from around the world can apply, take part in it, get involved in the virtual accelerator. If they get to the finals, they actually get not just monetary support, but they get access to a big mentorship community and also peers who are experiencing similar challenges as they do. There are many communities. So one thing I would want to emphasize, being in this network long enough, is you look at global communities, you look at your country, you don't see a chapter in your country. The best thing you can do is reach out to them and talk to them about launching a chapter. This applies, for example, there are many communities like Junior Achievements, Founders Institute, Entrepreneurs Organization, Startup Weekends. I believe we got into some of these. You can actually work on bringing these to your community if they're not there.
Are there any student-specific or student-led organizations or chapters within your network?
For example, ISEC is a really good example. Junior Achievements, JCI do have a lot of student members. We have a program called Startup Huddle. It's about entrepreneurs, or basically anybody who has an entrepreneurial idea, gathering together a network within their community to discuss their idea, to discuss their challenges, and get some feedback. So if anybody is interested, I'd be more than happy to provide more information, and we can work on bringing them to Qatar.
This is great. This is great. I think this will be a great initiative. So, Dr. Hassan, I think this will be a great idea to, I know there at Texas A&M, there is really focus on student activities. Mm-hmm. And I know it's probably one of the highest percentages of actually undergraduate students engaging in research activities.
That's correct.
So there's great really platforms there of doing that. So again, I just want to say, how do we encourage students and equip them that they graduate and not just think of a public or a government job, but really think of starting a small or a business with their friends?
I would like to start with what Buke said. I mean, I think establishing a local chapter, a student local chapter of such entrepreneurship societies would be great. As you know, we have local chapters of the professional societies, the mechanical engineering, the electrical engineering, chemical engineering, but establishing a local chapter, a student-led chapter for entrepreneurship would be a great start. Now, going back to your question, Dr. Marwan, once more, I mean, in engineering, our curriculum is full. and the students don't really have lots of time just, to engage with lots of activities. We have been very successful engaging them in our research projects, and of course in collaboration with the industry. So we still have work to do, in order to promote more activities where the students not only can find the time, can also find the mentorship.
Yeah.
And that's where these chapters or these organizations can play an amazing role in just giving them ideas, opening doors for them, not only the networking, just telling them what resources are available, whether in DC, in Geneva, everywhere. And hopefully, inshallah, one day we are going to go back and have conferences, and our students will be able to travel and meet people. As much as it's good to see people on Zoom, I mean, that interpersonal skills and building the relationship in conferences will be very beneficial for our students.
I agree.
So going back to your question, I think our work currently is simply to engage the students in the mini courses that we are doing. We have something called, EEP, engineering professional programs. Of course, we work as well with the high school students, but our focus are only now on the undergraduate students. So more work to be done, inshallah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nukathullah, you mentioned about the recent study, and then you mentioned that among the top 10, only 2 technology-led. I think this will be a great opportunity if you can just maybe give us an overview of what are the expectations in terms of future skills. I think this will be very useful for academia to adjust and make sure that their curricula, and again, also Book mentioned that we need to be innovative in the way we teach. We don't teach the traditional method anymore. So can you please tell us about this recent study?
Absolutely. And through doing the study, we found that 50% of all employees today will need to be reskilled by 2025.
Right.
And this is driven by the adoption of technology, but is also accelerated because of the current pandemic and restrictions with working remote work and no travel. And so what this report found is that these 10 skills could be bucketed into 4 kind of big buckets. Their problem-solving skills involved, their self-management skills, and there's skills around working with others, and finally there's the technology use and development.
Okay.
So just to give everyone just a brief overview, I'll quickly go through the top 10 skills that will be needed for 2025. It includes analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, and this is all about how quickly can you learn on the job or on the spot. 3rd is around complex problem solving. 4th is around critical thinking and analysis. 5th is creativity, originality, and initiative. 6th is leadership and social influence. 7th is technology use, monitoring, and control. 8th is technology design and programming. 9th is resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. This is critical for employees, especially as companies need to be agile. And 10th, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. And this is also very much linked to communication. So those are the top 10 skills, and I'd encourage everyone, whether you're an employee or a student, to go and look at this jobs reset report and see what the future of work looks like, so that you're making sure that you're positioning yourself for success and you're preparing yourself for the future of work. And completely agree with you that our education systems and curriculums need to adapt to set up students for success, and to make sure our research is relevant for the issues that we the new issues to tackle in the future.
This is a great advice. I think this is something that this list has to be looked at by academia as well as by employers, and I think give opportunity for their employees to get reskilled and upskilled. Mr. Saleh, I can't just finish this panel discussion without really congratulating you and also the leadership in Qatar for the amazing infrastructure that Qatar has developed over the last recent years, and also in preparation for the World Cup 2022. We've seen a lot of innovations, whether it's related to sports or it's related to other activities, that is also, benefiting from that. I would like really to give you an opportunity to comment on that and maybe just tell our, participants and audience a little bit about that.
Thank you, Doctor. One thing I think I would want to reflect here is it was a great opportunity for Qatar as a government to push this event as a development agenda, not only for the sport field as well, but it was a great opportunity to improve our infrastructure. We have improved multiple of our technology infrastructure. We have 2 smart cities newly established, which are above even world class when it comes to digital and IoT infrastructure. We have really used this opportunity to develop in each sector, whether it's crowd management, whether it's responding to logistical issues, and we have yielded the result of this improvement in the current pandemic. That said, the opportunity is still on. This is not a one-time event. There is still room for great innovation. During the World Cup itself, we've got, again, it's a few months to go until the World Cup. And then Qatar won't stop there. There will be, I'm sure, multiple events. We are already in bids to host other larger events, whether it's the Olympic or the Asian Games. So this is one of many events, again, we're trying to host here. But not only that, this improvement also helped us to host other great events. Yesterday we had the launch of WISH, the World Innovation Summit in Health, which is also a great field by itself. So I think there are multiple opportunities to yield these benefits. But one last thing I want to also close by is I really hope that we utilize this week to build more bridges between the government as, again, end users, the private sector as innovators, and as academia to have more research, more practical-led research. And I know, and I love academia, we all started there Sunday, is to try to take off our perfectionist hat and try to be more practical in our research and trying to solve real-world problems. And that's, again, what I love about engineers, especially in Texas A&M, is they try to be as practical as possible in solving real-world problems.
Thank you very much. We have like few minutes. I want to give Book, Nukathilla, and Dr. Hassan also a chance to have a closing, just advice to the young entrepreneurs, and also maybe for all of us here, how to promote more entrepreneurship. Let me start with Book in Washington.
Thank you. Sorry, I went on mute for a second.
Okay.
Yes, I think I will totally agree on the fact that this week is a really great opportunity to get to know each other, get to know different stakeholders in our local entrepreneurship ecosystems and how we can collaborate with them. I think I fully agree universities are a really great starting point for helping build the entrepreneurship ecosystem. The ecosystem may be organic, but depending on what stage it is at, and our conversations were more in the lines of, in Qatar, things are getting started. There is still a long way to go. Still, depending on at what stage the ecosystem is, there is a lot each stakeholder can do. And the best thing each stakeholder can do is actually be involved in the conversation, learn from others what they're doing. There's always too many multiplied efforts that with collaboration could have much greater impact. And my advice to students is to be open-minded this week, to do things maybe that they would normally not try. Get to know other entrepreneurs around you, try to hear their stories, share your stories, your ideas. Maybe you will have something that you can take further to a new initiative from this week. It all starts here, and it all starts by making a little bit of an effort. So I would encourage everybody to make some effort this week, get to know some people, to know some programs and initiatives.
Thank you very much. Thank you. This is great. Nukuthullah, we have like 1 minute, please. If you just want to give us give advice to the students, to the young entrepreneurs, to us of how to promote them and support them.
Absolutely. And for the students, I would echo what Bouquet said, be proactive. And I would add to that, build the network. And so, you know, whether it's looking at some of the forums, communities, the young global leaders, the global shapers, or finding communities for innovators, entrepreneurs, be proactive, build those networks. And I think just being here for this event is a great step towards doing that. And for universities and academia, I would encourage you to continue to advance and evolve how we teach science, technology, and digital training so that it's accessible. Provide innovation and entrepreneurial training for companies and governments too, because they need to be upskilled as we evolve. Incorporate your own innovation hubs and your own startup hubs that can be supported and endorsed by governments, and that can bring new innovations to the market. And I'd finally say that make all knowledge and research that this wonderful insights that you're creating accessible and understandable for us all to implement and adopt.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hassan.
Well, I mean, I would like to look at my students' eyes and tell them if there is a best time to innovate and be a game changer, it's now. As Qatar heads toward Qatar 2022, with all the investment and all the infrastructure that Qatar built over the last 2 decades in education and industry and in roads and everything, I mean, I think our students in Qatar are in very good shape to innovate. And my advice to them is simply network, like my colleagues said. Build your networks very early, dare, and go for it.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a great discussion. I think the 1 hour went very quickly. I think we need another hour to continue the discussion. Maybe, inshallah, next Global Entrepreneurship Conference next November, we'll see you in face-to-face here in person in Doha, and we will have a chance to talk more about these great initiatives. Thank you so much. I want to thank Qatar Development Bank for really giving us this opportunity to put this panel together, and for their great efforts with the students and universities as well. Thank you very much. Thanks.